Yo, 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 what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Nate the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessings. We give y'all some time to tune in case these notifications ain't go out. James number 8, what's going on, my guy? First things first, you already know. Hopefully everybody having a blessed and productive Saturday. Hopefully everybody is enjoying the weekend so far. For those that might be at work right now, hopefully you smoothly getting through your work day. For those that might have to go in tonight, same thing. Hopefully you keep yourself safe, you know, and hopefully you get through your night shift. Those celebrating birthdays this weekend, hopefully y'all keeping yourselves safe, blessed, enjoying every moment of life. And if you was able to see another year, give the praises where it's due. Appreciate everybody that tuned in Monday for the conversation. Definitely was a good one. Um, Felt like I hit some key points. And today ain't nothing different. I do plan on hitting some key points. Breeze, what's going on, my guy? For those that missed it, you could definitely catch the replay. Um, Let me see how I'm gonna do this today. I know my mouth, so um, I just want to reiterate on something, and again, it has to deal with, you know, it has to deal with, parenting and structure. Um, I hear you, bro. What's crazy? We up to 41 right now, but it's not cold. I think because our humidity is still up, bro. But it's supposed to snow tonight, so we'll see. New York City weather is always unpredictable. So, but yeah, I want to say this to some of the parents, especially out here in the city. Now, for some of y'all, I can understand you work long hours, you trying to pay the bills, you trying to do everything necessary, you know, which you are supposed to be doing, you know, in order to keep a roof over your head, food on your table, and clothes on your backs. You got to get out there, grind, and hustle. But the one thing you got to remind yourself of is, again, having some form of a balance. And again, the balance is, again, just being very active and being proactive when it comes to your children. Some of y'all, you just got to have the right people around, especially, again, if you know you have things you got to take care of and you might not be able to keep an eye on them, make sure they got watchful eyes on them, you know? Because the one thing, in some situations, some of these kids will be coming from good backgrounds, whether it's two-parent home or not, or whether they just got a strong family structure, but they still susceptible to the street life. And for a lot of y'all parents, you need to sit down and have these talks and discussions with your kids. Because if you don't want your kids slipping up, slipping through the cracks, or possibly not being here long enough for any reason, you got to make sure that you in their heads. You got to make sure that you are, just keeping the eye out on everything that they're doing. And again, be watchful for the people that they hang with, people they associate with. Because again, with some of these children and some of these kids, they following behind their friends. We know this already. Like some of these people are only joining gangs right now because they following their friends. I want to be down with the clique. I don't want nobody to think that I'm not cool. I don't want nobody to think that I'm soft. Let me just follow behind everybody. But following behind mankind, especially again, if they not on the right course, following behind mankind could be your downfall. In some situations, you see how some of these people have gotten locked up. Why? Because again, being part of the quote unquote gang and organization. You gotta remember, when you're part of any form of operation and it's not legal, a RICO is coming. A RICO charge will be coming down or be handed down to you. Some of these people are locked up just because of that. You know, being around the wrong people or just being associated with the group and then got themselves wrapped up in something. But y'all need to teach them, especially for some of y'all who have already been around the street element, that there is nothing bright and successful from being in that type of lifestyle. Some of these people who are in the streets aren't in gangs. Some of them are just, they doing their own little thing. They building up their own little crew. But in the same token, it doesn't matter. Any form of organization, when there's more than 5 people involved in the same things that you're getting into, it'll at some point lead to a RICO. Whether it's state or federal, a RICO is a RICO, and you will definitely be guaranteed to do more than 10 years of your time. Even if you've been locked up for a little minute, that still doesn't matter. It won't go as time served. In some situations, nah, you just gonna have to sit here and eat that up until it's time for a trial. So you gotta think, you're sitting in there for over a year or two before things even get going. Then plus they hand you down whatever sentence they gonna hand you. It's time for y'all to teach them that again, there's nothing good coming from the streets. You know, nothing good ever comes out of it. The reason why I say that is because again, you want to lead the street life, but what does that street life guarantee you in the long run? Some people is a badge of honor to say, yeah, I've been in the streets, I've been living this life for the longest, but what is it actually getting them? You ain't getting no 401k plan or anything along those lines. You're not guaranteed health insurance or health coverage. Definitely not guaranteed a retirement plan. The only retirement plan you'll be getting is either an early graveyard or, again, getting locked up for life. That's the only retirement plans as far as the game is concerned. So again, you just got to think, you know, there's nothing good ever coming out that lifestyle. So teach them that again, their freedom should be more important than trying to chase a quick dollar. Now, for some people, that's all they're gonna know because they've already been stuck there. They've been in a situation where, it ain't no real money coming through, no finance, no nothing. So what are some people gonna do? They're gonna turn to that. Anything that could be made into a quick dollar, that's what they're gonna go for. But again, that street life, the only thing it entails as far as anything is concerned is that it's gonna definitely put you in a spot where it's gonna be hard. Gotta think about it. You ain't got enough money for a lawyer and you get wrapped up in something, you stuck with a legal aid. 9 out of 10, that legal aid ain't gonna do but so much for you. They only gonna do but the bare minimum. So you gotta think about it. You going by this street culture, there's a lot of downsides to it. Like I said, no 401k. no retirement plan, no family growth or no growth at all. You know, no financial growth, no financial backing, none of that. So what are you really going to gain out of that? And that's a question that a lot of people need to be asking. Like, what are you really gaining out of that? Parents, it is important again to teach your children that that type of life shouldn't be the life for them. You know, it's easy to get sucked into that type of scenario, but it's hard to get up out of it, especially when you've been entangled in it too much. It's almost like the jungle. Shoot, it's almost like a spider web to a degree, if you want to be technical. You know, if you've been too entrenched in that web, there's no escaping that. Not without causing some form of damage or damage to yourself. And again, it is important. Mo, what's going on, baby? You already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. But yeah, like I said, nothing positive ever comes out of that aspect of just running in the streets. Because at some point, you're going to run into some form of danger. Now, this is my thing. I just seen something where these young dudes getting wrapped up in a 22 count indictment RICO for gang activity. Now, they might not be no major gang, but they're a gang nonetheless. And a lot of these young ones probably ain't even of the age or probably ain't even in their full 20s. That's a problem right there. Again, it's sad to look at it and see that a lot of the people that's getting locked up right now, it's mostly youngins. We know some of them are coming from, they're coming from desperate and, you know, impoverished situations, you know. And in some cases, they're not even coming from that. Some cases, again, they just following behind their friends. Some of these people are coming from good backgrounds, but as long as you're following behind people who want to live that side of danger, you know, it could be a possibility your child end up following right behind them just because. So again, be proactive and be very visible in your child's life. But again, have somebody who is also going to have watchful eyes out for them. It's important because guess what? Like I said, you don't want it to be a situation where your child now is possibly going to be facing more than 10 years for something they didn't necessarily have to do. And again, for some of y'all, just being associated or around these type of organizations, if a RICO does come down, guess what? They are coming for you. So since you want to be part of that life, know what that life does bring you. That life is going to bring you pain, misery, and heartache. It's going to bring you pain because, again, instead of you trying to push away from it, you want to push deeper into it. It's going to cause pain because your friends and your family, your close knit ones who really want to see the best for you, are in pain because, hey, you following down the wrong path, and that path is not good for you or anybody around you. Some people you're going to cause pain to because depending on what you're doing, if people feel like they're around you or they know what your everyday life is, oh, trust me, they going to be trying to mess with those people close to you. For some of y'all that's in certain aspects of the streets, remember this: if they don't get to you, they're going to try to get to somebody that's close to you. And is that the way you really want to do things? Because all it's going to do is just add more heartache and pain to that person, but it's gonna leave you engulfed in shit that you don't need to be engulfed in. Give me 1 second, y'all. 1 second. Some of y'all, you have to again sit down and have these talks with your kids, because some of y'all have been around that street aspect or the criminal element at one point in time, and some of y'all know what it really entails. Again, you know, for every action, there's going to be a reaction. So if your kids are out here and they running with their little cliques and they robbing, assaulting, or even unaliving people for petty nonsense, just remember at some point that karma comes back. You want to know why there's never really no successful people who have still been active in the street life? Because a lot of them ain't successful. A lot of them, if they ain't unalived and passed on, they locked up for multiple life sentences, or some of these people got pushed out that same game that they was trying to get into. Like some of y'all push yourselves deep into this quote unquote game, but then, you know, the game could get tired of you and chew you up and spit you out. Oh, don't forget too, in some scenarios, that street element could backdoor you and get you up out of here quicker than you expected. Look at some of the people who joined some of these quote unquote gangs and organizations. Look what happened to them. They might have been rising up to the ranks, or they might have been rising to the top, or, you know, they probably had it to where they had enough influence and power. And that's one thing that a lot of people are scared of, somebody that has that much influence and power. And in that case right there, some people will get paranoid, some people will get too scared, and some people will try to plot to either backdoor you or get rid of you. I mean, let's take it from the case as far as the mobs are concerned, or was concerned. Now, when it came down to a lot of these mob families and factions, look what happened. Same thing like how in some of these gangs now. Somebody rising up, somebody is a notable name, somebody is, you know, in a good position, and they ended up getting backdoored or ended up getting backdoored by either friends, family, or just by the higher ups in that same clique. Because again, nothing strikes fear into a person more than somebody who has power and influence, especially somebody who is young and on the rise, or no matter what position, even if they ain't young. If they are gaining a high position, guess what? People get scared, you know. And again, the streets could backdoor you in a heartbeat. Look how many people did get backdoored. And some of them wasn't even doing but so much. Some of them was just out here doing what they had to do, or do what they thought they had to do to survive, and then end up getting taken out. Is that the type of life you really want to live? You want to be looking over your shoulder every time you head outside, or every time you out and about? You shouldn't want to live a life like that. You should be able to come out, breathe every breath of fresh air, and not have to worry about looking over your back. Serious, baby. And that's what I'm saying. It's a tricky world out there for real. And again, just on that aspect of things, it could turn very horrible for y'all. That's why it's important to try to bring out these messages and try to, you know, bring awareness to the folks. Because again, there are people who might be listening. There might be young folks out there who are caught in that same type of predicament. You know, they trying to find their way in the world, as they say. But this is why parents are important. Both mother and father are important to the development of their children. With some cases, we seen how some of these people who was either living the gang life or just living the street life, regardless of what they was doing in the street. Some of these people was coming from promising backgrounds. Some wasn't as fortunate. The ones that wasn't fortunate, some of these people are coming from backgrounds where there's more than 3 kids in the household. So if there's prime example, single parent household, that person might be raising 4 or 5 kids. At some point, one of those kids are going to be susceptible again to following behind the wrong type of people or following the wrong influences, and then you're going to get what some of the stories that we already see. You're going to get those type of situations, you know. And I honestly feel bad because again, some of these people had promising hopes and dreams that could have been fulfilled. But again, for some people, that streets for some reason fulfills their mind and fulfills them to say, I'm just going to do this instead of going the way I was going. Some of these people could have been promising, or they could have been, you know, future football stars, Hall of Famers. They could have been future sports analysts. They could have been futures anything. You know, there's a lot of people who had different talents and skills that they could have applied themselves, and they could have been, they could have been at the top of the totem pole. But because they can't leave that street element aspect alone, that usually would be they downfall. And yes, we can breathe and we could definitely, produce more than what we're producing. Because some people feel like the only way to get out of whatever situations they're in or get their families out of it is just, I'm going to run this, I'm going to do this, and that's it. But sometimes it be they downfall. Some of y'all be so enticed with, again, the fast money or just trying to get any form of money quickly. But you got to realize in some cases and some situations, you got to work hard, and you're gonna pour blood, sweat, and tears out into what you're doing. And again, sometimes the rewards will be worth it. It'll be worth it if you follow in the right path. It'll be worth it if you just stay on the road that you're on. But this is why it's good to try to encourage those young ones too, even when the parents can't be there, or even when the parents can't give good advice at that time juncture. It's always good for somebody else who's responsible enough to say, well, look, I see you doing good with this. Continue to keep doing that. Again, a lot of them are doing things and following the streets because there's no real love and attention at home. Give me 1 second, y'all. I mean, this is my thing, y'all. Some of us will cry and mope about the youth and, you know, why they taking a a dangerous turn in their life, but some of y'all could be the vocal point or could be, you know, the inspiration for them to keep grinding and doing what they need to do on a good note. Like again, you see these kids is good in sports, and that's where they flourish at, and that's where they accelerating at. Keep giving them that positive, you know, keep giving them that positive talk. You know, keep trying to instill the right type of knowledge in them. You know, like I respect those who, you know, who are coaches, whether they basketball coaches, football coaches, you know, anything that again sports related, and you know these kids are, you know, gifted at. Keep, you know, keep progressing with them. Keep trying to keep them in the right path. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Riaz, what's going on, my guy? You know, again, we could see a lot of different changes and a lot more positive growth on all levels. You got some kids who are completely, you know, they educated. They're real smart, not just book smart, but also somewhat street smart. But the main focus is again trying to keep them from that negative aspects of the streets. Because again, the streets don't offer nothing positive. The only thing these streets offer is a lifetime in jail or you're possible unalive. And for some of y'all, again, if you already are in the midst of building, you know, keep trying to strive for that greatness. You know, this is why it's important to have these talks, even amongst the young adults, because again, some of these young adults already are bringing kids into the world. So again, you would want to try to give the best messages that you can. You know, it's not hard for some of y'all to, again, just be locked in with your kids fully. You know, when you're locked in and you're doing what you need to do, again, especially these kids are living up under your rules. You know, you have to be at some point the disciplinarian. Doesn't matter again if you're coming from a single parent or a two parent home. There's always supposed to be some form of, you know, discipline, but also education. You know, because again, by you allowing your kids to be a part of that life, you know, you're pushing them in the wrong direction. You know, when you're not taking the opportunity to get to know your kids' friends and not knowing who they friends are as far as the backgrounds are concerned, because again, some of these kids could be influenced just by the things that they see hanging amongst certain people. See, like right now, again, got a whole bunch of kids right now, and these just kids. You know, these like I said, these are young boys, young boys. Like 13 people got wrapped up right now, and it possibly could be more getting wrapped up in that same type of court case and RICO case. Again, for some of you parents out there, you should always have a watchful eye out for your kid and making sure that your kid is not following the wrong path. Because guess what? Your kid get into something, that thing could turn worse than what it is, right? And guess who they coming to see? They will find out where your child lives, and guess what? They will be knocking on your door. And in some instances, they might knock down your door. Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard on these damn security cameras, baby. But that's what's gonna happen. Your child is out here running loose, terrorizing the neighborhood, and then they part of a clique or a actual gang, whether it's a big gang or not. Like I said, they have a possibility of being wrapped up into something that they ain't gonna be able to fight. And again, if you ain't got lawyer money, shoot, you good as gone. Because a legal aid is only gonna do again but so much. Some of them are putting themselves in that position and putting themselves in these type of cases because again, some of these people are coming straight to social media and they basically detailing every possible crime that they might be part of or could be a part of. And this whole thing of all the people snitching or people telling on you, you're telling on yourself. I said this once before and I'm gonna say it again. Anytime you could think to come on any platform and discuss whatever crime or discuss whatever you might be into, you think they ain't gonna be paying attention and watching your ass? Guess what? There's 4K cameras damn near everywhere now. And for a lot of y'all, you think you just gonna be able to do a crime and get away with it. As long as the camera don't see your face or as long as the camera don't see you actually doing something. But some of y'all gonna get wrapped up because of the things you say and some of the things you do, especially on social media. Again, they're watching your pages. They ain't all for them to say, well, let me see if this person ever been arrested. Let me see if this person is actually somewhat in this system or this data bank. Now again, it's time to try to change the dynamics of things. Because again, in some cases, some people are just going to be tied in and bound to just being in the streets because that's all they know. Some of them are coming from situations where, again, there's no parents at all, no grandparents, no real family members directly that could actually try to help them or impact them in a positive note. So they're gonna go to where they know they're gonna get the most love. And for some people, the streets show more love than the actual, flesh and blood, which is the sad part about it. In those cases, those people are gonna be bound to the streets because they don't know nothing else. And as long as there's nobody there to try to encourage them to do something better, hey, it's gonna be the same repeated cycle. But in some cases, you gotta try to talk to somebody as much as possible. You could try to uplift them and encourage them as much as possible, but some people are already going to have it embedded in their minds that this is the way they're going to go. This is how they want to do things. And again, you should want to look up to something greater than that. Nobody should have to worry about coming outside and I got to keep my eyes on everybody because I can't trust none. I want to live a life like that. That's a life of paranoia right there. Because for some of y'all, you're already out here making bad choices, making bad decisions. So again, karma, especially in them streets, karma has a way of just catching up to people. Prime example, if you out here and you are causing situations where people are being unalive. Like I said, live by the gun, you die by it. And don't think that it won't happen. You out here robbing the people, even if you ain't unaliving them. You out here robbing the people, you out here causing harm and again being a menace. At some point, it'll come back to bite you. Because some of y'all think y'all could get away with certain crimes and you're untouchable. You think that the people are not gonna at some point put you down, but they will. You gotta remember this. Not everybody is living by a street code. Not everybody is actually living in them streets. You have civilians that if they feel something and they feel that they gonna be a necessary part of, guess what? They gonna do what they're gonna do. Like I told somebody, you can't call a civilian a snitch when a civilian is not going by your street logic or street code. Some of these civilians are just as civilians. So if they see something bad, if they see something that needs to be reported, they will do that. And how can you get mad again and call them snitches or just, you want to put the wrong type of energy on them when again, they just doing what they feel is the right thing to do. Some people are going to live by that code. I'm going to do the best and I'm going to do the right things possible. And some people still will stand on it. The one thing to remember, especially for you civilians, is again, stand on your principles and you stand on what you need to stand on. You never let nobody scare you or try to intimidate you from doing the right thing. When you allow them to do that, guess what? They already won. Like I said, streets is very unpredictable. And then guess what? In some instances, your own crew will set you up. Your own crew could be the ones that again place you in that predicament that you don't need to be in. Look how many people locked up right now because they quote unquote best friends or they quote unquote gang that show love and unity decided, look here, my life is not my life is worth more than yours. I'm not gonna be sitting here in jail. I'm not gonna sit here and do this excess amount of time when I could get you up out of here and you're the main one they're looking for. You're the main one that they're gonna be coming after. Like I said, you want to join these organizations, but guess what? Your organization could dime you out in a heartbeat. Like I said, backdoor activity. And again, who wants to live like that? Who wants to live in an organization where, again, you gotta watch your counterparts, but again, you just gotta watch out for what's going on out there in the world around you. See, again, for some of y'all, you're doing certain things, and then you're doing it in a repeated pattern. All it takes is for them to notice the pattern, notice what's going on, and then guess what? A lot of y'all be getting wrapped up. In some scenarios, where people used to be hanging out all on the corners and on the blocks and stuff, some of these people ain't doing that no more because they done got wise. Why? Because the police and the feds done got wiser. If I'm seeing the same people day in and day out parked or perched in front of some of these establishments and noticing that they just sitting around, oh, best believe I know something is going on. And that's how they gonna have that mindset. Something is going on. Now we just gotta find out what's all going on and who gonna be going in for any form of major charges. So in some cases, these people are smart enough to stay off the blocks or stay off the corners because again, you know, it'd be your luck. You decide you're gonna do something again, either a camera sees you or the cop sees you. To be quite honest, some of y'all are not gonna make a living or make a good or honest living just involved in the streets. Because guess what? Again, those same streets you trying to break your neck for will not do the same thing for you. The streets is a cold place. And also again, you take the risk. You take the risk on putting yourself in a bad position. They always told people if you're gonna do a certain thing or if you're gonna live a certain life, don't involve too many people because again, one of those people could possibly turn on you. Now, in all actuality, like I said, I wouldn't consider a civilian a snitch if they doing what's right and helping authority. What I would consider a snitch is somebody that you was just doing dirt with, and then they decide to flip and tell everything on you or push everything on you, so they could get either the lighter sentence or possibly get exonerated from whatever. That's why I said people gotta know what they talking about before they just talk it. Again, I don't consider any civilian who is reporting any form of crime or reporting anything that they seen. I don't consider them a snitch. I consider them a tax-paying citizen that's doing what's right. But again, A snitch is somebody that you did dirt with and they decide to turn on you. If a civilian wasn't out there doing no dirt with you and don't know everything, they're not bound by the same codes that a street person would be bound by. I would say in some cases, guess what? If this is a life you decide you want to live, you're better off doing things on your own, or you're better off just not doing it at all. Because again, at some point, you're gonna realize that it was worth nothing. Some of y'all are trying to quote unquote build up a foundation or build some form of financial foundation, but you're messing yourselves up. Because think about it. Let's say even if you do got a lawyer or you got some good lawyers that could possibly get you out of some of these scenarios, you gotta keep them on retainer. So that means, you gotta pay them some decent money for them to do their job. And my thing is, legal fees and everything else, it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap at all. So the more you gotta pay and the longer you gotta pay for that lawyer and their services, the more money is coming out your pocket. The more money is being taken out of what you was trying to build for. If you say you was trying to build to take care of your family, that's money being taken out of everybody's mouth. Just to make sure you pay for that lawyer and to make sure that you keep yourself out of jail. But see, that's the thing. With a lot of these people who was running in the streets and continued to make that their life, at some point they met that invisible wall. And that invisible wall definitely took them out of commission. See, again, some of y'all think that you could thrive and actually make something successful from the street life, but you can't. Only thing you are promising or bringing to your family is, again, pain, agony, and sorrow. Because God forbid if something does happen to you and you end up being alive, yeah, your family, you'll be survived by family to a degree, but again, how can you do anything or make anything better when you're no longer here to do anything? Again, life is what you make it. And if you decide to make it happy and peaceful, then you need to be focusing on the things that's going to keep happiness and peace around you. If you plan on being successful, you got to continue to make the important moves that's going to lead to actual success. Can't be afraid to get your hands dirty and your feet dirty, especially on a good note. Now, the question for the day would be, would you rather be stuck doing a 9 to 5 or doing a 25 to life? I'm going to ask that even towards the younger generation. What's more important? Having a 9 to 5 and actually earning the legal way, or doing 25 to life or doing something that was illegal and you didn't have to do? And for some of y'all, especially younger ones in your young 20s, if you already are creating a family, why leave your family stuck out here? See, to be quite honest, the streets ain't gonna show but so much love. In some cases, yeah, if you was in a scenario and now you passed on, you might have some people that look out for your family, but that's not always a guarantee. The only person that will really sit there and actually do everything for their family the way it's supposed to be done is you. But when you put yourself in a scenario where you could possibly miss out on your children's growth, your children's upbringing, that's something you should think about. Do you really want to leave your children out here unprotected? I mean, because let's be real. You got some people right now who, if anything happened to you, son, I'm gonna take care of your family. I'm gonna make sure they always good. And some of those people, again, they do live up to what they're saying. But others, they ain't gonna live up to that. They might help out once or twice, and then they'll completely disappear. You will be a distant memory, just another name, another statistic, and another person on a T-shirt. Your memory and your legacy shouldn't just be defined by that. Because again, the only thing that's going to happen is something bad might happen. You might not be no longer here to take care of what you need to take care of, which is your family. And if you was trying to get your mothers or your fathers or your parents out of these scenarios, they gonna still be stuck in those scenarios. Why? Because guess what? What you should have been doing to try to help them, you didn't do it. But then we have some scenarios where, again, you know, even when the kids do good and they try to do the best for their parents or they try to put their parents in a better position, sometimes them parents are not gonna really care so much. They ain't gonna want to pick up and start over again. At that point, you should just be focusing on yourself. If your parents feel like they don't want to move, they don't want to do whatever, you can't force them to. But again, you have to take care of yourself at the end of the day. Your whole goal and purpose is to be better, and to strive for greater. You can't strive and really make anything possible happen good in these streets. These streets will swallow you up, especially if you really don't have a strong backbone to anything. And for some of y'all, you gotta remember, if you think you bad in these streets or you think you bad now, there's somebody that's gonna be bigger and badder, or somebody that's just gonna be wiser and smarter. See, some of y'all think you smart, but you're only as smart as the next person. And it might be somebody that's 5 steps ahead of you. So that's something to think about. For some of y'all, you think you're untouchable, you think that nothing can happen. Trust me, karma has a way of coming back to you when you least expect it. And once it does, there is no escaping it. Granted, it's not easy trying to raise or trying to keep your kids in a positive mindset. It's not easy trying to, again, make sure that they following the right path because again, they gonna incur, they're gonna incur certain things, you know. But your goal as a parent is again just to make sure that you are giving them the proper information and letting them know what the consequences could be, you know. See, when they old enough to understand certain things, again, this is when you're supposed to be trying to teach them the best and show them the best. Because those are going to be the critical years of their life. Again, teaching them that the streets is not the only way for some people to succeed or strive in life. Because some people will sit here and say, yeah, I was making this and I was doing this and I was doing all of that and I was getting money. You was getting money, but did you save any of that money? Did you actually take that money and put it to something useful? Did you even say, let me go open up a bank account? Let me go do something along these lines. So just in case if something does happen, my family got something. Life insurance plans, any of that. A lot of y'all not thinking about that. And then guess what? You done died in the streets broke. Now nobody could pay for your funeral. Some people are gonna have to do GoFundMes, or some people are gonna have to ask people for help in the community to try to help bury you. That's not the way to live life, and that's not how you're going to succeed as far as financial growth. Your best bet, like I said, if you plan on making something great in your life, then you got to put your feet all the way in the ground, planted, and stand firm in what you're going to do. Again, it's not easy, but it shouldn't be hard neither. I've seen some people who have been in the streets, maybe been in the streets for a little bit, did what they had to do, and got up out that game before it chewed them up and spit them out. Because in some cases, some of these people ain't here for a long time. I'm just going to try to see what I can do. I'm going to see if I can make anything happen, and then from there, I'm going. Some people don't plan on making it a life career. Because again, there's no benefits for the street life. No benefits at all. And again, if you end up being a victim, a casualty because you out here playing in these streets, who want to take care of your family? Who's going to actually look out for your family? Who's going to look out for your kids if you got kids? Like I said, some of y'all are putting yourselves in a position where you're leaving your families out here to suffer. No man nor woman should want to miss out on part of their child's growth and development because they don't want to leave the streets alone. Some people that already been in the streets, the game that had a piece of them, chewed them out, put them in a position, and then when these people came home, they decided to go the good route. They decided to take the actual necessary road to actually build and succeed. Some people learned after they first arrest or after they first little bid, they ain't trying to go back. And I'm gonna say this for some of you young ones out there, again, especially you young 20. There's a lot of y'all that really can't fight. And you're really not tough or powerful unless you got a weapon. Notice that. There's a lot of y'all that talk a good game, but if your game is so good like you say it is, you shouldn't be afraid to fight. And you shouldn't be always quick to resort to getting a weapon to enact violence on people. I just watched a video the other day where, and I think this happened around 40 Deuce, if I ain't mistaken. For those that don't know, 42nd Street in Manhattan. Guy was out there. It looked like he had either a baseball bat or it looked like it was two crutches tied together. Whatever he had in his hand was big enough to actually hurt somebody if they swung right. Now, it turned out from a one-on-one situation to a three-on-one situation because guy swung once, twice, trying to enact his violence on somebody. Somebody came from behind him and took the weapon out of his hand. See, him not paying attention, somebody then came in and was able to get the weapon out of their hand. And guess what happened next? The guy he was trying to attack ended up slamming him, and even the guy's dog ended up biting on his ass. Again, some of y'all got to realize this too. Some people have these dogs not just for service dogs. Some of these, they go to protect their owners. And depending on what kind of breed of dog you got, trust me, if you got one that's definitely protective of their owner, oh, guess what? As soon as they let them go, it's over. So you possibly got to worry about getting bitten up by a dog and getting your ass beaten. That's exactly what ended up happening. The dude ended up getting his ass beat, plus his legs and whatever else bit up by that dog. Now, in that instance right there, that was protection right there. That would have been self-defense, God forbid, if anything else would have happened. It's self-defense because, again, I got somebody who's threatening my life. I got somebody who's threatening my well-being. So if you think for a minute I'm not going to protect mines and my, you bug, you know. Now, I don't know if that man got arrested. But it goes to show like there's a lot of different things that can happen out here. We already got people who are out on these streets because a lot of the facilities are closed up or closing up. So they're allowing these type of people already who are dangerous to themselves out in the streets. That's another element you gotta worry about when you're in them streets for real. Because you might end up having a situation or a conflict with somebody who's not fully all there, who don't, that don't fully play with a full deck of cards. So that's a danger in itself. But then, prime example, end up having to do something, even if you feel like you was justified in doing it, the state got to prove that it was justified. You know, and if they feel it ain't justified, you going down just for the hell of it. Because in their eyes, you should have known better. Or you should be able to identify when somebody, quote unquote, is suffering from some form of mental illness. But there's some people walking around normal as all hell. And you don't even know something is going on with them until a situation occurs, you know? So again, for some of y'all who need to hear this, that street life is not all it's cracked up to be. And when it's all said and done, again, it's just going to chew you up and spit you out. Is it worth it? No, it ain't worth it because you're losing out. See, you might think you winning from the aspect of I'm getting this little bit of money or I'm doing what I need to do or I'm putting something on the table. You might think you winning, but in the long term, you losing. You losing out on chances to continue to be free out here because if at some point something happens and you make a slip up or somebody around you slipped up and said something, guess what? Now they're gonna be looking for you. Didi baby. You already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. And if y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. But this is something you gotta think about. Again, what love is there really being shown? Like for some of y'all, you wanna run behind the gangs, but guess what? At what point do you say the gangs ain't enough? Or what point do you say this gang stuff ain't doing nothing for me? And I respect those who actually made their own decisions and stood on their principles. It was willing to, you know, do what was necessary for their freedom. Because once you join certain organizations and gangs, right? Some of y'all be thinking it's a game, but I'm gonna tell you this right now. In some instances, once you locked in with the gang, you locked in until you leaving out in the Alpine box. And who the hell want to do that? Like my thing is, who wants to be up under a dictatorship to a degree? Because that's what some of these gangs are, dictatorships. You still gotta answer to somebody higher. And if that higher up has more influence or more power than you, then guess what? If that person decides it's over with for you and they could basically cut your car, they're gonna cut your car. Frugal baby. So again, who wants to live that type of lifestyle? Who wants to live a lifestyle where you're taking orders from somebody instead of you being the one that's making things happen? Who wants to be told what to do when you could be doing what you feel you want to do? Like I said, yes, when you working for somebody, yeah, you have to follow orders. You have to follow rules and regulations. In some instances, these gangs and these little organizations and these little cliques and crews, yeah, it's the same way to a degree. But again, you still got to answer to somebody. Now, if you decide you want to do things on your own, guess what? The best way for you to do it is not being up under somebody's thumb. And for some of y'all, it's like, this is all you know. I got to answer to somebody higher than me. even if that person could be younger than me. I gotta answer to somebody higher than me because I'm not in the ranks where I should be at. That's corny. And then guess what? If you get wrapped up in a situation where now you're locked up, you're still being dictated to. That guard, that corrections officer, anybody else, you're being basically told what to do even then. They tell you when to take a shower, when to go to sleep, when you go out on the rec yard, so on and so forth. Who wants to live life like that? Some of y'all didn't even want to follow rules and regulations at home, but you'll try to follow rules and regulations in the streets, and the streets don't show no love, no mercy, no nothing. I don't understand why y'all don't think it's cool to try to follow your own road and your own path of success. You feel by clicking up with people or ganging up with people that's going to be a better option. In the long run, if you with a team, you still got to split certain things down in the middle. And in some cases, that's where some of your downfalls can happen. Because let's say if you happen to caught a quote unquote robbery and y'all done got off with at least, let's say if you was lucky enough to get away with over $10,000, right? If it's five of y'all, how much y'all really think y'all gonna split the piece? You know? Let's say if the price was bigger. Y'all done got off with 20,000, 30,000. And guess what? Even if you didn't play a major factor in that crime, you're still supposed to get your PC because you still was a part of it. But in some cases, if they feel like you didn't do enough, guess what? They could just cut you in whatever they're gonna cut you in on. Some of them ain't gonna cut you in. They might take they might take your piece or your portion of the pot. And what you gonna do then? That's what I'm saying. Some of y'all be breaking your necks to do any and everything with people, but then you're not making sure that in the long run it's gonna be beneficial for you. And I think that again is a problem. Again, teach these youth and teach these kids who are coming up, especially into young adulthood, that it's okay to be your own person. It's okay to be a leader in your own right. It's okay to not follow behind everybody. Because again, following behind mankind and following behind the wrong people, that definitely lead to your downfall. Again, look how many people have done that. You you being led by other people. And then them same people that leading you done led you down the wrong path, and now you're in a situation where it's gonna be hard for you to get up out of it. Or you could possibly again end up spending the rest of your life behind the walls just because. Again, it's important to try to set the tone, and you have to have a cemented and concrete structure so it don't shatter, so it don't break. But again, have these conversations with your young ones. And even for you ones out there who give me 1 second, y'all. But this is what I'm saying. My bad, y'all. But yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's important. It's important to teach them that again, you know, you can strive and succeed in life. Even coming from the roughest of background. Look how many successful stories we did have of people, whether they was coming from a single household, two parent household, or being raised by other family members that actually made it through. Some people have been in the worst of spots where they could have been easily a victim, even if they wasn't involved in a lot of the street stuff. They could have been an easy victim and an easy target, but they managed to make it through and actually make a success out of themselves because they had the right type of people, you know. And the right type of people don't necessarily got to be family. They could just be people that want to see the best and want to see you grow and want to see you in a better position. So when you do have people outside of your parents who are saying something good to you, don't dismiss it, and definitely don't just let it go in one ear and out the other. Because again, you're gonna have those quote unquote OGs that want to see you do well. They will try to do their best to push you away from certain aspects of the street or the gang life because again, they done already been through it. They realize what it entails. They realize that it didn't do anything good for them nor their family, and they changed it up. And again, I'm gonna say this for some of you young ones out there, especially the ones who are already either being a part of the gang or following the gang. A lot of y'all not big and bad like you think you are. And again, once you get behind that wall, there is no there is no guns, there is no weapons unless you make your own weapon. But everything else you think you got access to while you outside, guess what? You ain't gonna have that access once you get inside. So you really are gonna have to fight it out. And again, in some cases, it ain't gonna be a good look. I watched an old video where it was a young boy and a older gentleman. I guess they was in the same pod together. And whatever the young boy said or did, the older guy got offended. And he had told him, well, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna have to fight this out. You know. And again, you can't make threats or say and do certain things and think that it ain't somebody that is bigger or better. Or think that you ain't gonna be getting into the type of situations you're gonna get into. Trust me, you're gonna get into them. And if you can't fight or hold your own ground, you know, you could be good as going in there too. But to be quite honest, there's a lot of y'all that shouldn't be trying to be focused on getting to that part of your life where you have to fight for your life. Again, know that the streets don't have nothing positive and will never have nothing positive for those who think they trying to grow and succeed in this life. Teaching them foundational skills, prepare them for the real world challenges. No, it's true, it's serious. It's the whole truth. My bad, y'all. I'm multitasking. So if I did miss anybody or miss any comments, I apologize. I'm also being eerie because I got a fool over here trying to be a fool already. Damn, man. Too early in the day for this. But this is what I'm saying all in all, though. You take a higher risk at messing up your life or jeopardizing anything positive in your life because you refuse to leave the street aspect alone. Appreciate you, serious baby. I'm safe. I'm good. I'm just double checking because you do have some people that, regardless to what, even when there's cameras around, they will still try to do dumb shit. And that's the thing I was talking about. Some of y'all just doing certain things that is not necessary. And you got enough common sense. You should know that again, certain things you do, it will have a negative impact on you. And what could you honestly say? When certain things happen, you can't get mad at nothing. You can't get mad in certain scenarios because again, uh, hold on, I knew it. I was gonna have to come outside and do something. Can't never have a peaceful one. But again, when you get to a certain playing field, guess what? Streets ain't gonna have no real compassion, love, sympathy, or empathy for you. So again, it's time for some of y'all to start spreading those messages, especially to the younger generation. The reason why some of the scenarios are happening now is because some of the older generation are still following and doing the same things. Like, how can we stop certain cultures when we have the adults who are, still, they still being active on it. Excuse me. Y'all cannot be back here, man. Y'all gotta move from back here. Give me 1 second, y'all. Nah, you good. You good now. Nah, I muted up. Don't worry. Like I said, always something. But my bad, y'all. But again, for some of y'all, you think the streets is gonna show you any form of love and compassion and sympathy. It's not. But again, it's good for some of y'all to again, try to show better and do better. Like I said, how can we expect some of these youth and some of these young people to, stray away from these type of scenarios and situations when we have some of the adults, even coming from the Gen X's, who are still affiliated with a lot of the things. Like prime example, you can't say you want to stop gang culture when you have people that's in their 30s, 40s, and 50s still banging the culture and still being a part of the negativity. You know, and that is a problem. Again, a lot of these children, a lot of these young ones, they following what they see, not just from the people that they are friends with. They are actually learning and getting the same type of influence from people who should know better. Like I said, at what point do you say, I need to stop doing this? At what point do you stop gangbanging? At what point do you say, you know what, this ain't doing nothing for me? I watched a video a couple months back, and to be quite honest, it's sad because in this instance right here, you had a whole bunch of, like, most of them looked like they was in their early to mid 20s. The oldest people that was in that group and in that photo looked like they was old enough to be grandfathers. Why are y'all still banging? Why are y'all still being active? Why are y'all still out here embracing the culture that's doing nothing but destroying us from the inside out? So that's why I said it's important. You know, we gotta definitely show them better than we can tell them. And how we show them is, again, how we show them is how we are going to continue to show them. Show them something better. You know, even if you are trying to do the right things, and some people are, they are doing certain things because they trying to teach a lesson. It works for some people, but for others, you got to give them the harsh truth, and you got to give them the harsh reality, regardless to what. So again, you got to lead by an example. And if some of these youth are seeing that some of the older folks, like I said, over 30, 40, and even 50, still out here being active in the streets, still being a part of that negativity and destruction, of course, they're going to pass along the same traits and the same negative life, you know, life cycle that the streets offer. Don't make sense. Like I said, how can we get these people away from this form of life when you have people who are still willing to rep the life and ain't willing to leave it alone? Like I said, if you old enough to be a damn grandfather, I don't think being an active gang member or being active in the streets like that is a good thing. Because again, what are you showing? What are you possibly sending as far as a message is concerned? You know, at some point, you know, certain things that you was into, that should be a wake up call for some of y'all. If you done been through enough, because some people haven't been through the ringer yet. So that's why they still want to think that it's cool to move and operate that way. But if you done already been shot at or shot, stabbed up, almost kidnapped, probably almost beaten to death, every time you done visit some form of hospital stay or incurred a hospital stay because of the activities you in, you don't think at some point it'd be time for you to level up and say, this ain't me no more? This ain't for me no more. These people don't have any moral confidence to make a difference in the world. They are holding on to their youth. That's the truth. Like when you really sit here and think about it, and this is from the outside looking in, some of these gangs, some of these street organizations, some of these little cliques, gotta think about it. They started off as something positive at first, but then because of the drugs, especially during that crack era, drugs, poverty rate was kind of going up. These things did kind of contribute and add to a fire that was already burning, you know. But again, when you're not willing to move away from that element, especially if that element is holding you down or that element is not helping you rise up in a better position, that's a problem. And again, just like I said, how can we expect certain ones to follow the blueprint, or how do we expect them to be in a better position when the people who should be showing this, they ain't showing? Like I said, there's no way in the hell you can tell me you past your 40s and you still out here repping, you still out here saying you part of a war, and you still out here showing the negative side of things. See, again, at some points, there are people who, even if they are following these cliques and these gangs, guess what? At some point, once they realize what it is, some of them are going to slightly, or if not, they're going to fully move away from those scenarios because, again, those scenarios are doing nothing for you. Not doing nothing at all, but just causing more heartache and pain. You know. And again, some of them get that realization that life is important. You know, being here for my family is important. You know, being able to uplift and put my family in the right positions is important. You know? So again, you know, at what point do some of y'all say it's time for me to make a change? If I want to see change, I gotta make a change. And then it's the thing, like in some of these cases and scenarios, like I was just saying too, some of these gangs and these cultures that are being brought up, a lot of them are being based around these playgrounds and these parks where these kids are supposed to be safe to play. Like prime example, why should there be any gangs forming up in a park area, especially a park that's connected to a school or anything? You know, like I said, the places where it would have been frowned upon, or the places where people would have said, no, this can't happen, it's happening now. If you take a look at some of these places and some of these states, how is it that these kids are not in the parks, but you got more adults in the parks than the kids? How can these kids, you know, how can these kids, you know, socialize and elevate when, again, they can't even come out and play? They can't even come out and really have fun because there's a possibility that people who are supposed to be grown-ups decide they want to have a shootout or decide they want to have an all-out fight. What protection is there for them? And a lot of the schoolyards and playgrounds used to be off limits, even towards drug dealers. But now we see what's happening now. They aren't trying to change anything because they always blame the next person for their shortcomings instead of taking the initiative to be a productive citizen. Exactly, serious, and change the trajectory. Now, some are. There are some who were in the gangs, or they still might rep the gang, but they not active. They not in the streets. They not doing nothing. And some of them are doing the right things. They are trying to be, you know, peer pressure counselors. They trying to be, you know, how do you call it? They trying to work with these gang prevention programs and stuff like that. And I respect it because again, at least they are serious and focused on the mission at hand. They understand what some of these things have done, and especially some of these things again are still to this day destroying our community. You know, in my opinion, the best way to again just try to change the trajectory is again having self accountability, having some responsibility, and then again just moving forward and moving away from those things that are destroying. Because yeah, you have some people who have been in the worst of spots, but again, they learn to just say, you know what, enough is enough. I don't want this to continue to happen. I don't want to be the burden on my family. I don't want to bring no sorrow to my family. I want to actually make sure my family is in a good position. And if I could do so by doing things the right way or trying to help them get into the right path, then do so. You know, see again in the long run, that need to want to have or chase fast money, or that need to want to thrive and succeed to get out of poverty. If that's what your goal is, to try to get out of poverty or to try to help your family or to try to bring, you know, financial wealth and prosperity to the family and to the family tree to create that blueprint, you got to step away from the things that again can destroy it. Because yeah, you could be a good hustler. You could be out here serving up them things and getting that little bit of money. But this is one thing you got to remember: the drug money, and I'm gonna say this from the outside looking in. The drug money has slowed up. The drug money is not as lucrative as it used to be. And then in some cases, you got to be careful because again, you got the wrong type of stuff out there in the streets, and now bodies start dropping. What do you think is going to lead to? Fingers going to start pointing at the person that's putting that stuff out in the streets. You know how many people locked up right now because they decided I'm gonna put a bad product out there. That product started knocking people off left and right. And then guess what? At some point, the finger get pointed because there's always gonna be some form of a federal informant or uh, a cop playing a decoy, playing as a drug fiend that's gonna, all right, this person is doing this, this person is a server, this person is the head person. There's always something, you know? So these are things you still gotta watch out for. You serve to the wrong person, find out it's a detective. Now what? You're gonna have charges on you, especially a charge of trying to sell to undercover. And that ain't no joke. I knew a person, may he rest in peace. The only reason why they didn't get what they should have gotten was because again, that was their first time ever even being in that situation. They didn't have no arrest records. They never been out there doing anything outside of. And when they did decide they was trying to do it, it didn't work for them. Got a slap on the wrist. You know, they was lucky to get that because we know when it comes to that, they could serve you up like hotcakes if they want to. You know, and for some of y'all don't have the street smarts that you think you do because again, all it takes is one little misstep, one little mishap, or just have the wrong person around you, and you could possibly be going down for something that you didn't necessarily have to go down for. Nowadays, these immoral people don't want to see you with anything. They are self-absorbed by the way they are especially leading their own life. No direction, no leadership skills. That's a whole fact, serious. But see, it's the thing. We know not everybody is going to be a leader, right? You're going to have people who are going to follow. But this is my thing. If they're going to be following you, they need to be following the right path. They need to be following something again that's going to be conducive and also again lucrative for their upbringing. Like prime example, if you out here hustling, and you might have some of these young ones who look up to the hustlers because yeah, they out here getting money, they out here getting fly, they getting fresh, they doing this, they doing that. But then again, look what you got to do to try to get those little things when you could just work hard. Find something that's conducive to your life. Find something that's going to give you structure, but also again give you financial stability. And you could get these things without having to harm your own people, hurt your own people, or unalive your own people, or even poison them. But the problem right now is some people they don't want to work for nothing. They want everything to just be handed to them. And that's something that some of you parents, especially young parents now that have kids, need to teach your kids that again, not everything is going to be handed to them on a silver platter. If they want certain things in life, they're going to have to work hard for it. This is why it's good to try to teach them those type of necessities when they're young. Because all of this quick money, fast money, or all this trying to take the easy way out, the only way it's going to lead you to. And again, for some of y'all, are you really ready to take that risk and take that penitentiary chance just trying to quote unquote build yourself up or build your people up? And to be quite honest, the way some of y'all moving, some of y'all not ready to be behind no wall. Some of y'all not going to be able to do that time. You might think you big and bad because you out in the streets, but when you get behind that wall, it could be a whole different scenario. And again, some of y'all not as big and bad as you claim to be. You're only big and bad when you in numbers or when you know you got some form of a weapon that can help you in a scenario. But everything else, nah, not a good look. Because now, if you can't fight worth of nothing, and now you do end up being behind that wall, guess what? In some instances, you ain't got already a homemade weapon. You're gonna have to fight it out. You know. And if you can't fight, guess what? You're just gonna have to take that loss. But if you are stuck in self pride, that pride will always cause your downfall as well too. Because with some of y'all, the pride does come before the downfall. Some of y'all get too prideful. You think that, oh well, I can get away with doing this. I ain't gotta worry about nobody doing this. I don't gotta worry about nobody saying nothing. I could do and basically say whatever, and I'm not gonna have no consequences or repercussions. But at some point, you will catch those repercussions. You will catch those consequences. And when you do, are you really gonna be prepared to face it like a man? Now, I could respect those who was living that life, and even when they got caught up, they stood tall. They knew what it was. They didn't run. They stood up tall and did what they were supposed to do. I can't respect those who want to commit the act but then run away. Because what was the purpose of doing that if you're going to run? You know? And I would say that in so many words. Y'all got enough time to make something happen in your life. You got enough time to try to walk the right type of path and get the right results. I'm profoundly clear that most of these people are displaying their own struggles, blaming the government for their losses. They just need to get off their high horses and grab a hold of life. No, that's a whole fact. Because at some point, how long you gonna keep blaming the how long you gonna keep blaming the impoverished areas? How long you gonna keep blaming certain things before y'all take a stand? But see, again, when it comes to certain aspects of living, especially within the community has to be strong and they have to stand firm. So that means even the civilians. Look, if y'all tired of certain things, y'all want certain things changed, guess what? You're gonna have to be a part of that change, which means again, you're gonna have to rely on the numbers. And again, you gotta stand firm no matter what. If you want change, you have to be a part of that change. It's not gonna happen overnight, but it can happen. Some instances can change and it can be suppressed or it can just lower the numbers down. But again, everybody got to work together. Like I said, at one point, it wasn't just the parents that was doing right by the kids. You had the communities that was doing right because you had the right people within those communities that was doing what was necessary. They ain't wrapped up or tied up in anything that could possibly land them, behind bars or in the early grade. So when you got those people around, definitely setting the tone, it's a good look, regardless. That's why I said it's important for a lot of y'all to again just keep spreading the message, keep spreading the awareness. It's necessary. And I think that's important again. Building the structure within the community. It is important. But again, the community in some cases have gotten weak because again, we have people who are either too scared or they don't want to be a part of it. But in the same token, guess what? You still have to live in these areas. So if you want better, if you want to see better, there's a lot of y'all that need to get up and be a part of that fight. No, it's a whole fact, serious. We got to take responsibility. In some cases, us as a community, we have to take responsibility and accountability for why some of the things are happening in our communities the way it's happening. Because again, we have a lot of people who just refuse to be a part of and they don't care about nothing. If it ain't involving their family, if it ain't affecting their family, they don't care. But in the same token, it can still affect your family. Because if your kids could barely even come outside and play without having to worry about gun violence or any form of gang violence or just any form of negativity from the streets itself, that's a bad look. No kid should be just locked up in their house or scared to come outside because they got to worry about bullets flying or knives wielding. And, you know, again, we got to start building a better safety net for those. It's important. And the best way to do it is, again, you got to bring the numbers up. We have to. So, like I said, for some that need to hear it, teach your young ones about the importance of just being a better individual. Teach them that it's important to maintain your freedom. Teach them that it's okay to be their own solid individual. Teach them that they don't always have to follow behind a clique or a crowd just to gain some form of momentum in life. But again, got to give them the harsh truth as well. You have to let them know that there is nothing thrilling or satisfying about spending your time in jail, missing out on your life, missing out on key elements in life. You being locked up, you done missed out on your child's upbringing to a degree. Your family is out here struggling. Your family is out here unsafe and unprotected. And that's not the way to be. It's not the way to look. And some of y'all really throwing yourselves in hell's pit because you refuse to just say, let me move away from things that's taking me away from that. Again, we're going to understand that there are going to be some people who, again, slip through the cracks. And there's nothing you can really do about that. But for those who haven't fully slipped or for those who haven't fully succumbed to that, this should be a life lesson for some of y'all. Again, the streets have nothing good to offer you. You can offer success and growth to yourself. And if you have the right people that's in your ear, listen and take heed to the words that are being said to you. Some people are going to tell you things because they might see something you don't see. And that could be your warning right there. Yo, baby. So again, we have to start strengthening up the community. In some cases, I believe what some of these people were already saying. And for us to complete this job, we got to get rid of all the trash that really is making our communities less than valuable. But we also have to start implementing and start trying to bring more opportunities into those same communities. But how can you do so when you have to worry about a surge of violence? In some areas, the minute somebody who's supposed to be looked at as a street legend or somebody with a high name, once that person gets unalived or then got locked up for something. But 9 out of 10, you know how these other ones who are following those people are going to do. It's going to be violence to right at, and it's always got to be a get back for somebody who got got. Again, life is precious. You know, life is precious in the long run. You know, she be focused on again living, trying to do the best you can for people around you, especially those teams. Hey, you started breaking up one hand, but if I was in the matrix, I was for a second. But you know, you just gotta think about that. How do you expect change in any way, shape, or form when you're not willing to do what's needed and necessary? And again, it is important. Hold on, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, I just had to double check. I had to come back out, you know. But yeah, you know, this is all I'm saying. You know, we have to start coming together as a community and start pushing out and eliminating all the negative. If we want to see something better and something more positive, again, got to stand firm and stand in numbers. When we allow all the negative to just engulf us in it, we ain't gonna never see the positive or the brightness or the even positive outcome of things. We're not gonna see it because again, we so entrenched in the nonsense. But you know, like I said, we got to stand on business. If we want to see some of these youth and even some of these young adults have a brighter and better future, again, got to show them the blueprint. You have to make that quite aware to those folks that, again, you could be as successful as you need to be or as successful as you want to be if you put your mind to everything that you need to put your mind to. Only way to only way to start seeing better, or at least try to eliminate some of these aspects that again killing and destroying us, is eliminating the toxics. Like I said, when it comes down to a lot of these recreational places, you should be able to come outside and play and not have to worry about any form of violence or negativity. And to be quite honest, I find that it's corny for anybody to really be sitting in these recreational parks or even near these school playgrounds and you don't have kids with you or you're not doing nothing constructive. Like I said, I can remember at one point the school zone and the parks was the safe zones for these kids. Now it's almost like it's not like that no more. It don't make sense. How can we again instill the best quality picture for anybody when we're not showing the best picture? We're not giving them the best quality. And I would say some of you young parents out there, again, whether you're single or you're doing it with your counterpart, again, be more active and be more visual in your child's life. And make sure you have the right people that you can trust. That's also going to be visual, but also give that knowledge and wisdom when Some of y'all really need to just even again pay attention to what your children are doing or what they're witnessing when it comes to social media. Because we have people who are bringing their crimes and bringing their stupidity right here to social media. When they do see certain things or come across certain things, it is important that again, y'all take hold of it and try to stop it and attack it right at that junction. And again, give your kids the knowledge to know that if they're gonna be out here doing certain things, there will be consequences and repercussions, especially if you decide to post up whatever on. And see this problem now. Some of these young ones and even some of these old ones, y'all will cling to social media and come on here and post any and everything. And again, these people are watching. They are watching everything that you say and everything that you do. And if something is definitely off or if something is giving off those bad vibes, they're gonna definitely be watching it. The more you keep coming on here and posting up everything that you shouldn't be posting up, that's only giving them more evidence to use against you when they finally do decide to run down on you. There's some people right now who are locked up and wish they would have never got on social media and said the things they said or did the things they did. Because at some point, those feds was watching, even the local authorities was watching. And guess what? They got wrapped up. Can't blame nobody else for your downfall when you the one that's being a part of your own downfall. And that's something that you got to realize too. You're being a part of your own destruction when you decide not to move correctly. I think it is time for that change though, y'all. And again, we're gonna have to keep bringing that awareness. You know, in some situations, again, if there's more than three, four kids in a household, yeah, it's gonna be hard to try to make sure everybody is following the same path of success or following that positive path. But again, you still have to be active and you have to set the ground rules. You have to set the boundaries in order for some of these kids to understand what's being said. And again, when they old enough for them to break down things or they old enough to understand things, you sit down and talk with them. Break it down to them so they understand it. The whole purpose is again conveying a message and making sure that they understand it correctly. So that's where again you parents are gonna have to start doing the best. You're gonna have to start doing more than what you're doing. Because that same excuse of, oh, I work this many hours, I work jobs, I work this, cool. There's people who are hard workers working 10 plus hours a day, still come home and make sure they family straight, making sure that they are doing what's necessary. Some people are still going by the old tradition. Come home, dinner's cooked, everybody sitting at the table, no devices, no nothing. Just sit down and talk. That's why I said even that aspect of family living is almost non-existent. But there are still people who believe in that. We're gonna sit at this table as a family and we're gonna talk as a family. Communication will always be the strong suit for anything that you do. Yes, it's not an easy job trying to raise a child or even trying to bring a child up, depending on where you're at. But it shouldn't be hard neither. Again, you just gotta have a strong balance within yourself. That's crazy work. Social media is the devil's playground in some instances. You got to be mindful of what information you want to encompass on you. Yeah, exactly. It's the truth. You know, it's a gift for some, but it's a curse for others because some of these people feel like I can come on here, I can say whatever, I could do whatever. It doesn't matter who's following me or who's not following me. I can say and do whatever, and there ain't gonna be no consequences. And for some people, they get that false sense because they figured if I said something and ain't nobody come after me yet, then I can continue to do this. But it's nasty work though, because again, Gangsters move in silence. Gangsters are not getting on this internet or any platform for that matter and talking a whole bunch. If somebody actually wants something done, a gangster ain't gonna talk about it, they gonna be about it. A lot of y'all claim y'all gangster and claim that you tough, but you coming on here to record your daily criminal activities. Or you coming on here to record whatever it is you coming to record. That ain't gangster. That's self snitching. No matter how you look at it, you snitching on yourself and you're putting yourself in an even worse position because you can't leave social media alone. You feel like you have to broadcast everything that you're doing. See, broadcasting too much can lead to your downfall. There are some folks who are smart enough not to say or do anything on a regular phone, text, or anything else, but mess themselves up because they decide to go to social media and post, or even just make some form of cryptic post to where, all right, you just admitted to being a part of something. We can't tell what just as of yet, but we're gonna find out. So again, this is stuff you got to be eerie about. What you think might be a safe zone ain't gonna be a safe zone for 'em. Unfortunately, that dinner style living is not normalized by a lot of households. That would be great. That gives the parents more understanding about their children's lives. Now, that's the truth. But see, you gotta think about it. If you go back to those old traditions, you knew pretty much what was going on within your family and even within the outside of your family because again, everybody was sitting down and talking. A lot of y'all not talking to your kids, they're not asking them how school was, not asking them what they learned in school. I can remember coming home days when I was young. My mom, how was school today? But what did you learn today? And I had to let them know. Like I had to let her know this is exactly what I learned today, or this is what was being taught today. Because she was involved. And like I said, may she rest in peace. My mom's was the epitome of what a parent, whether they single or not, should be. Making sure their child wasn't following the wrong path. Making sure their child was actually learning something. And just, again, sitting down talking. Even if it didn't have nothing to do with school, sitting down and building a bond with your child so you know what's going on. You know? EPB, what's going on, my guy? I was just telling my kids this while watching the first episode of Stranger Things. I said that mom has no excuse not to know if her kids are at home at night. That's a whole fact. See, what you just said, yo, is the truth. Because I was just having a conversation with one of my peeps yesterday. And, like I said, I get where they was coming from because in some instances, some of these kids are out and about late in the evening because, some of their parents don't be knowing what's going on. But again, if you know you got a certain ground rule that should be respected, it should be respected. Like if I'm telling you you have a curfew, you need to be in at this time. You should be in at this time. It should be no trying to sneak out or you still out past the time I told you to come home. See, again, at some points, you got to stop being super lenient with these young ones. If you set a ground rule, if you set a boundary, they should respect it. But you got some people who are coming from backgrounds where, again, there's nobody to really sit there and show them the right way or try to enforce what should be enforced, which is a sad part about it. You don't have active parents being as active as they should be. My mom's was the epitome of that parent that was always going to make sure her child was good. She ain't just do right by me, she did right by my brother even before she thought about passing. So that goes to show No matter what the situation is, no matter how you're doing things, you have to be active with your children. And I would say that even for you single fathers out there too. Be active in your children's lives regardless. Appreciate you, serious baby. Appreciate you, yo. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta think about it too. You know, you only get one mother and one father, but you could get a host of other relatives. The mother and the father, regardless, those are gonna be the most ones that are impactful because they was a part of your birth. And when they no longer here, what could you possibly do? The only thing you could do is try to live your life the best way you can and try to make them as proud as possible. But this is what I'm saying. Like I said, I know it ain't easy because again, I had to be a part of raising my brother for the rest of his preteen and teenage years, which means I had to be at every, not so much as parent teacher conference, I had to be at every doctor's appointment. I had to be at anything that was involving him and needing that guardian or that parent. I had to be there. There wasn't no days off. And that's what some of y'all got to realize. There's no days off. You got to make sure you're trying to do the best you can for your young ones. And when they do get into adulthood, they got to be able to spread the same knowledge and the same blueprint and pass it down the family tree. Again, how can we expect certain things to change when we're not trying to be a part of that change in general? No. Something for some of y'all to think about today. And again, I feel bad to some degree because some of these boys that got wrapped up in that Rico I was just talking about, they probably are, they probably do have parents that care enough about them. But if you care enough about your kids and if you love your kids enough, like you say you do, you need to make sure your kids are not following the wrong type of influences and make sure they're not making costly decisions that could cost them in the long run. Just something for y'all to think about today. Like I said, the link is pinned in case anybody want to chime in. If not, I'm not going to hold y'all all afternoon. But I felt like this message need to get out. Again, for some of y'all, you think the streets got enough to offer you. The only thing them streets is guaranteeing you is a nice place in jail, a cot with your name on it, or that Alpine box, or that cremation. It's the only good places that ain't gonna be a good look for you at all. If you think that's a good place, then those are the only good places that the streets are gonna offer you. Other than that, streets will just chew you up and you'll be another casualty. And guess what? Life will move on. If you don't want to be another RIP on a t-shirt, if you don't want to be another name that's forgotten in the winds, build your legacy. And for you parents out there, it's time for you to start being a part of your children's legacies as well too. Keep creating yours while you making sure your children create theirs. You know, like I said, link is pinned in case anybody want to chime in on the topic. If not, I'll most likely be back tomorrow afternoon, or it could be tomorrow evening. I'm gonna do a light conversation, probably do some little music vibes. You know how it is. But you know, appreciate everybody that rocked out. Appreciate everybody that tuned in. Appreciate those in the shadows. I know how it is on a Saturday. I know some of y'all live now. I've seen a couple of notifications going on. Some of y'all live. Some of y'all probably dealing with things with the family. For those in the city, right now we at 42, but the temperature will be dropping. We could be getting some snow and rain tonight. So in the event you decide to go out and do whatever, just make sure you keeping yourself bundled up. Make sure you're keeping yourself safe and just try to be as healthy as possible. You know? But these are the type of conversations that we're going to continue to have. And again, the whole focus and the whole goal is just trying to show people that you can be successful and not always have to lean towards the streets or lean towards following others to get there. You know? If we want better, we have to try to do better. You know. Thank you for appreciate you, serious baby. You already know James number 8. You know how we do it over here, man. Don't say ain't no more damn cheesecake. Serious, lock the door. James think it's a game. First of all, you came in here with no pork chop sandwich. You ain't offer nobody, not even in the chat. Didi, I know you still somewhere. I better smell some baked ziti or lasagna. Yeah, I'm coming at people's necks now. I'm coming at y'all next. Serious, where the bell peppers at? Where the bell peppers at? I smell them. I thought I was smelling tacos for a minute. Oh, it's in the 60s up there? Shh. Anybody that's over 50 degrees, I don't want to hear y'all complain about nothing. The last few days we've been as high as maybe 40, 42 degrees. Our lows have been damn near in the teens. Feel like upstate weather. Feel like upstate weather, even though we in the city. I know we are supposed to be getting some winter-like and cold weather coming these next couple of weeks. So again, for those that might be celebrating birthdays, for those that might just be trying to get out for the holidays, make sure y'all keep yourselves safe. Make sure y'all keeping yourselves bundled up. Try to keep yourself as healthy as possible. You know, don't tell me to leave Didi alone. Damn it, I done told her. I done told her. Not gonna be coming up in here just sliding through here and ain't passing no plates. I think I might have to start getting y'all. Man, listen, you know what? I might have to do something before this year is out. I think I gotta bring back my AI drops on y'all asses. Y'all think it's a game. And I gotta upgrade it, update it. So I'm on y'all next now. I'm on y'all damn next. But hopefully somebody did get something out of this again, though. Again, we gonna always joke, we gonna have fun. We gonna try to always keep it, always keep it balanced over here. But in the same token, you gotta really be honest about these messages that we bringing up. Like I said, we understand some people are automatically gonna slip through the cracks, and there's nothing that could possibly be done. But for those who still have a chance and a fighting opportunity, we got to show them that the best way to do it is doing it the right way, doing it the legit way. Anything else would be uncivilized. Anything else you think to try to do, it could be your downfall. Definitely need to keep having these talks and discussions. And for those that are celebrating birthdays, yes, we did not forget about you. We did not forget about you. And again, hopefully y'all enjoy y'all birthday weekend, your birthday weeks. For those that are celebrating the holidays with friends and family, again, enjoy every moment of life. Keep celebrating, keep laughing, keep creating memories. Another year, another blessing around the sun, definitely. And again, if you was able to be the fortunate ones or the lucky ones to see another year, Again, give your praises where it's due. You know? Appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build, and we're gonna continue to keep bringing this work no matter what. Um, like I said, I could be back tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. Um, Anytime you do get something from me, it doesn't matter if it's every day or every other day. You know you're gonna get some form of a great conversation. But the goal is again to try to see more positive, see more changes being done. And it does start with these conversations at hand. So let me get my ass up out of here. Um, I'll see some of y'all moving around these streets. Hopefully, y'all enjoy the rest of your afternoons, evenings. And it's already happy Sunday to those across seas. I still need my lottery numbers for tomorrow today. Somebody holler at me, you know. Let me get my ass up out of here. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay game. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. For everybody that was in attendance today, y'all already know that love is love and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I'm gonna do is give you real. That's all I'm gonna do is give you real topics and real builds. Like I said, definitely have this conversation, Then we're gonna continue to have. And I'm gonna give fair warning. We're gonna always have people who are ignorant, who don't mean well and don't want to see well, but main thing is to starve them out. If you can't get behind the message at hand, if you can't look past the messenger, that's on you. But the message still gonna stand. And the message will still be firm. My lottery numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who do I appreciate? I appreciate all of y'all that have been a part of and still being a part of. Appreciate every last one of y'all who do what's necessary. You know, like I said, you might not like what I'm saying. You might not like the fact I'm the one that's saying it, but these are things that y'all need to start accepting. The message is going to stand clear regardless to what. And instead of y'all worried about the messenger, focus on the damn message. When you focus on the message, maybe things can get a little bit better. Maybe things could take a turn for the better and not always take a turn for the worse. But yeah, appreciate y'all. And I see y'all moving around up in here. But y'all stay safe. Keep that third eye open. And until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.